Good evening, everyone. This is our third session of lecture series. So today we have a very interesting topic on gender and politics because we know what is there about gender discrimination. It is political. So therefore, this topic was being chosen, and here we have two speakers with very interesting topics. We have Anisha Hajarika. I think she's present. Anisha?
Yes, ma'am, I'm present.
Yeah. So we'll start with her presentation. So without delaying more, I'll just request Dr. Jayanto Chaudhary to speak something about gender and politics to start the session. Dr. Chaudhary? Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
So, welcome to our third session on gender equality international lecture series. And today's topic I already mentioned that gender and politics. So gender and politics, several way we can connect. So, gender and politics is an issue from different levels, starting from the upper level nowadays in Indian context, we can say the parliament and others, the reservation for women in the political process, assembly, also in the different states, there are also issues, and even in the local level, in terms of in Indian context again, the panchayat and other urban local bodies, everywhere the political things are there in the gender and politics. So gender and politics we can think in two ways. Definitely uh, women members in political parties, among the political parties, in the several decision making process or the election campaign and other how the political things are there. Second is that women representative in decision making process or the policy making, where the representative of different political parties. Say, for example, it may be the ministerial, it may be the Gram Panchayat members. Those way, it's a very important how women will be there, because this is the system that as much as possible women participation in the political process that can empower. So proper representative of women. It is not a mere issues of participation, but how they are participating in the qualitative term in the decision making process. That's why the women involvement in politics is very, very important or political process. And in other way, if you see that various way that women participation or the empowerment or the equality in different spheres, it may be distribution of resources, it may be in the health or in maybe the education. Everywhere the decision is to take by the political parties or different countries. So how they are willing to take part in this, how they are giving the space for women participation within the party and also within the government. So this way it's important. Several parties related government also they have taken various stand and various policies. Say for example, recently if we see that in India also, out of the entire 36 state and union territory, only we have one female chief minister, women chief minister. Uh, Even if you see that central government and other one way that one cabinet minister, but there are seven ministry of state who are the women, which maybe one is highest. Uh, if you see that even different political leaders, most of the cases, apart from one or two political parties, mostly dominating by the male only. So it's important to discuss in this topic how women and political thought or political issues or political participation can be linked to each other. When we talk about the concept of empowerment, there are two school of thought of empowerment. One is the static concept, one is the dynamic concept of empowerment. When we talk about the static concept, mainly the reservation of women in as a quota in different layers, different level of this can be. But once this can be the static concept of participation, which may be valid for sometimes people used to call valid for only 5 years or some particular duration. But this can also enhance the dynamic concept of participation, women empowerment. That means once they are coming from their house where they are hardly visible, when they are to the different decision making process, different issues, then how they can be they can take part in the dynamic empowerment process in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of decision making process of their children, marriage, all together, even in their own physical bodies and all together. So that's why it's important because if we see the policies, different policies, maybe the involvement of women is very important. Nowadays, everybody is talking about the gender-oriented or gender-centric development. But if we think about the gender-centric development or gender-oriented development, the proper representative of women is important in the political process. That's why I'm sure our esteemed speakers they will talk on those issues, and I'm sure that in future, I mean, coming time that after discussion, participants will be also able to share their thoughts in terms of interaction, and the session will be very much important for us. With this, let me stop here and let us welcome our distinguished speaker for this session. Over to you,
Thank you, Dr. Chaudhary, for your valuable words. So, without being any late, I would like to request our first speaker, Anisha Hajarika, who is a research scholar in Cotton University, and she will be presenting on virtual representation of female politicians in India by media and analysis. So I would like to welcome Anisha Hajarika to present her presentation. Welcome, Anisha.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good evening to all of you all. First of all, let me share the screen so that I can proceed with this further.
First of all, you just give a brief introduction of yourself, then you start.
Okay. So my name is Anvisha Hazarika, and I'm currently a PhD research scholar in the Department of Political Science, Cotton University, which is located in Assam. And I have pursued my graduation and my post-graduation from Delhi University. So this is the basic educational qualifications that I have. And right now I'm presenting a paper which is based on the theme of gender in politics. And the title of the paper is Virtual Representation of Female Politicians in India and Analysis. So I have, before starting, I would also like to give you an idea or an outlook regarding why have I chosen this paper, because recently we know that social media has ruled each and everybody's life like a like the modern tool and technology. So that is why we, as social media users, we are very much aware that there are trolling, there are online abuses, and there are certain passing of comments that happens quite often and quite openly against women. And since this study is based on gender, I thought that understanding what this, if this forms of abuses or this form of online sort of derogatory comments that are passed on the female politicians, whether it exists in India or not, and what are the what are the solutions, or we can say the results, or what are the findings, or what are the solutions that we can come up to. So that is why I have chosen to do a research on this topic. So we shall proceed now. So when we speak that that India is a world's largest democracy with a parliamentary system of government, and politics in India is like incredibly diverse and multifaceted, and its political landscape is marked by political parties, then elections and coalition politics. And in India, we have two prime national parties at in present time. This is BJP and Congress, and apart from that, there are certain national parties like Aam Aadmi Party, National People's Party. Then we have Bahujan Samajwadi Party. Different. There are many others. So at present, when we see that there are 542 representatives in Lok Sabha, and out of the 542 representatives in the Lok Sabha, 78 are female representatives. And when we try to narrow it down again to Rajya Sabha, there are 224 224 total representatives, and out of this 224, there are 24 women representatives. So as a whole, there are 102 women representatives both in the houses. So when we analyze this thing, we can see that India is still far behind in case of women representation than the global average. So, with regard to political participation in India, we have diverse constitutional protection, which gives women the right to free speech and expression. We have the freedom of associations and to form assemblies, and also elected, and we have reservation for women to participate in the politics. But we can see that the journey that woman has gone through in India, that is starting from the suffrage period of 1900, then again to the Indian freedom movement, and today, the women holding public offices of high profile portfolios. There's a certain developments or the journey we can see the woman in India has gone through. But we can see, even if this achievement has been made in Indian politics and Indian society, but the clinches of patriarchy and gender disparity is still very prominent in politics of India as well, when it comes to female representation and their image in the eyes of the public. So we can see that, as I have already stated, that social media has overruled us a lot, and not only the female candidates, every Indian politicians are there in social media, because social media is a tool for them to express themselves, for their for campaigning or for political purposes. This social media handles like Twitter handles, Instagram, these are required by them. And that is why what happens is that often the female politicians has to confront derogatory, hate and demeaning online abuses from the public and from the mass media. Not because of the political work, but mostly because of the physical appearances, because of their personal attributes, and because of the relationship or bond that they share, or the familial bond they share within their political domain. So we can see that the elected representatives, we know that the elected representative always has to face criticism, right? And they are always under public scrutiny. So the social media era, but it has normalized, the ever more aggressive form of abuses. Then politicians actually now, although they have accounts in their, the personalized accounts in the social media, but they are now used to certain insults, intimidation. They are used to cyberbullying and trolling as a part of regular dealing in the online interactions. So and this happens because there is another reason behind it, where women has to face this online abuses, because politics is a domain which in Indian typical patriarchal society it is believed that politics is a domain of the man. So that is why every attempt is made to deprive women from politics, from their opinions, from their actions, so that they cannot express their views. And that is why nowadays the mass medias or the social medias are used as a death threat, are used for death threat, then rape threats, then for cyberbullying. So we can see that if we try to locate somewhere this issue in India, we have it in a most prominent way, because there are female politicians in India who has faced this thing a lot. And not to be precise to India, at the world level, the prime ministers of Finland and prime ministers of New Zealand, I'm forgetting the name. Her name is Prime Minister of New Zealand. Her name is Jacinta Ardern, and Prime Minister of Finland. Her name is Sanna Marin. Even they had to face immense abuse, and they were painted and goring picture with foul comments and about their appearances and about the intelligence. So at the world level, if it's still persisting, then in India, which is still where the Indian society is still lurking with patriarchy, these female politicians, to be very precise, they are still under very deprived condition. If we try to look at in context of the social media threats or social media users. So we can see that in the and specifically, I'm locating the study today. The study would be basically with regard to 2014, from 2014 period when the BJP rule started, because prior to that period, social media users were quite less, and and that is why the social media users were also quite less, and the politicians were not using social media also for their political purposes. So that is why 2014 period is counted in this study. So in India, there were prominent women leaders like Sonia Gandhi, we have Mamta Banerjee, we have Mayawati, and today we have cabinet ministers like Nirmala Sitharaman and Smriti Irani. These are notable political female leaders, but we have but their work is never out of public scrutiny, and they has to have fall under controversy, not because of their work, but mostly because of online abuses, trolls, and they has to become a victim of the toxic virtual environment. So the objective of the study today would be I have taken 3 objectives of the study, and the first objective is to find out the virtual representation of different Indian female politicians on social media. The second is to trace out the causes behind online abuse and gender biased representation of female politicians by mass media reports.
Just a minute, Anisha.
Yes, ma'am?
Hello, have you shared your screen?
Oh, no, ma'am. Let me share it. Wait,
Yeah.
I shall directly go to the page where I stopped. So, so that, okay, so these are the objectives of the study. I hope it's visible. So the third objective is to understand the responses of the social media platforms towards online maligning of women politicians. So these are the 3 objectives of the study. And the statement of the problem, I shall narrate it itself only. So the existing patriarchal structures is hindering gender equality in politics and political empowerment of women in India in the modern times, with hurtful and hostile content regarding them on online media platforms regularly and relentlessly, and thus silencing and threatening them in their equal space. So just narrowing down to the research methodology, what I have opted for. The research methodology that I have chosen is both descriptive and analytical, and there are few samples regarding the female politicians that I have chosen, and those are Mayawati, Priyanka Gandhi, Priyanka Chaturvedi, and Smriti Zubin Irani, because they are the politicians who have experienced, virtual mockery, because in the public space, and the data would be the secondary sources of data collection, and like the online Twitter archives, intergovernmental reports, research papers, and yeah, that's it. So in the research findings, I would like to be very precise with an organization called Amnesty International. We all know about it. It's an intergovernmental organization. So this has done a really good work with regard to the female representatives in Indian politics, regarding whether they are trolled or whether they are, what's their images. So that's thing, it has recorded very nicely. And it has told one thing, it has come up with one thing, that in India we always follow, although there are female politicians, but we follow the culture of baby, bahu, beti, because patriarchal society will always try to attach the female, attach a link of the family. Not, they don't want to see the female politicians to be as an independent female politician, but with family links. So they try to recall the female politicians as Bibi, Bahu, and Beti. And once to cite an incident, Supriya Sule, we remember her because she is a member of Lok Sabha, and she was asked to walk out from the floor of the parliament by a colleague of the same party, of the opposition party, to the house kitchen. So we can see that a typical stereotypical patriarchal mindset you know, amongst colleagues, or we can say amongst counterparts, among the main counterparts within the floor of the parliament. So then how can the female politicians be safe in the online, in the social media or in the online platforms? So we can say that if we narrow it down to Priyanka Gandhi, she is one who has faced the worst uh, cases. She has confronted with the worst cases of online abuses because certain sexist and misogynistic comments were passed on her with regard to her appearance, with regard to her relation with her brother Rahul Gandhi, and also with regard to her husband. She was called as Chor ki Bibi because of the money laundering case on which on her husband Robert Vadra had to, was engaged. And besides that, Mayawati is also commented a lot because of her physical attributes, because of the way she speaks, and because of the way she actually tweets in English, stating her that she is uneducated and why it's necessary for her to tweet in English. So, and moreover, we can see that Amnesty International, has revealed that 95 female politicians received nearly millions of hateful comments on Twitter and Instagram. And out of it, the women from the minority communities, the female politicians of the minority communities, are the worst victims because they have to face double jeopardy in the field that first they are women, and second they have come from the minority community of India. There is one instance as well where Shazia Ilmi, a member of BJP, she has to face repetitive trolls because she belonged to a minority community and she was commented on wearing or on not wearing her hijab properly. And with regard to Smriti Irani, as I've already mentioned, in her introductory period of her political career, social media use was quite less. But although she has been, targeted because she has affiliation with the television industry, and so therefore she was called as drama queen. And her daughter, and passing of comments not only to the female politicians but also to the family is quite common. So that is why her daughter was targeted as Minister Ki Beti. So these are certain taglines that are actually imposed on this female politicians and their families because of the different affiliations that they have. And even Sushma Swaraj, that her contribution towards Indian politics is so massive. Even she was not spared from online commentaries. Now we have another Congress spokesperson known as Priyanka Chaturvedi, and she has filed a complaint to the NCW, that is National Commission for Women, because she has received death threats. Not only she has received, but her daughter has also received death threat, and that is why these are certain instances. Actually, these are certain findings that I'm currently saying, and it's reflecting on the screen. These are certain findings that I have found from various sources that I've already mentioned, from the secondary sources, which tells about how the female politicians in India, their conditions in the online platforms. Now, with regard to the response of the Twitter and the Instagram, if we look at, because Twitter and Instagrams are the two most commonly used social media platforms by the female politicians. So Instagram once said to a particular female journalist called Nidhi Rajdan, okay, she was being victimized of doxing, and when she reported this incident to the Instagram, then Instagram stated that this whatever is happening to her in the social media is out of their jurisdiction and it's not violating their guidelines. So such comments or such sort of reply that has come from Instagram has really made her upset, and therefore she thought to delete her account. And next, when we go to Twitter, then once Sushma Swaraj held a survey regarding women, if they feel safe online, female politicians, like if they feel safe online, then 43% said yes and 57% said no. So that is why there is a higher percentage of female politicians who reported no, that they don't feel safe online in the social media. Then, when it comes to Twitter, Twitter is the most used, application by the politicians. So it is said that the female politicians, 13.8% of the Indian female politicians used Twitter, and and they are really very complainant regarding the tweeters of policies and guidelines, because they never protects the human rights and gender justice. They never stand for the human rights and gender justice, and and they have actually filed a complaint against Twitter regarding, regarding certain renovations or regarding reformations in their policies, so that online threats and violence doesn't happen. The next, we'd like to come up with interpretations and suggestions, because this is the primary thing that I think we need to look into, because whatever has happened and whatever is happening, we cannot pinpoint to anybody else, but we can actually make changes within ourselves. So that is why knowing and understanding the interpretation is of very much importance. So, this online violence and online trolling, this happens to mainly because to silence the women, or so that the women can self censor themselves, and then they come out from the politics. Then the politics can be a domain of the man. But it is very important for the female politicians also not to abstain themselves from participation through in the mass media, but also they need to fight it back. They need to show them how women could be fiery online, and this was done once by Sushma Swaraj when she had to face an online hate comment, and she was being supported by Rajnath Singh, her colleague, at that point of time. Then we can see that improving awareness of the abuse of women in politics and supporting more research on the problem is important. Attention has been paid to the either the obstacles. Attention is always been paid regarding, why women comes out of the politics without understanding what are the loophole that lies regarding why they had to move out from the politics. So that is not present. And this sexism and misogynistic comments, or that space online, has not only been existed in India, but also in UK, Australia, Bolivia, even Sweden. So these are certain developed countries, and still such things of mockery, virtual mockery of female politicians is still present. So the requirement of today's time is that although we have the Ministry of Women and Child Development has email address, currently they have introduced an email address. So to curtail the online abuses of female politicians by addressing the everyday complaints. And now there is also another requirement to take a legislative step. Okay, legislative step for protecting the female politicians from facing any abuses online. And digital literacy is very much important, so that the trollers and the abusers can understand the impact of their activities on the society. So coming to the conclusion, it means that although the UN has adopted the international day for the elimination of violence against women, but this is also a violence. Online abuse is a form of violence against women's right, and therefore, the impact of online abuse on female politicians is quite significant, and it needs to be addressed. It needs to be discussed, and it's the call of the hour to look into it. And since women are treated with humiliating gendered remarks, so this thing needs to be put into control. And in egalitarian society and promotion for equality not need to be for the in the societal base, but also that online or the online stage also equality and justice needs to be fostered. Thank you so much.
So thank you so much, Anisha. And now I would like to request our participants to ask our questions if they have any.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
This is Dr. Yasir from VT Institute of Arts and Science, Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Nice presentation, ma'am.
thank you.
You have related politics and gender, and you talk about egalitarian society and all. 33% reservation the government is trying to implement in 2029. So, what is your say in that?
So actually, that is a topic which is good, completely different from mine, which I have just presented. But if you are just asking my opinion, then it's a good approach towards reserving the seats for the women, and it would give more chances for the women to participate politically and to represent themselves and to represent the women as a section of society.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Anyone well? Anyone else? Would like to ask questions?
This is not only not question. I mean, I'm just regarding that earlier question related to the 50% reservation of women in parliament. I just had a link recently. It was quoted me and earlier the 50% reservation for women and as well as the implementation the 50% reservation in women in local government. It was started in Tripura also. Then and it is going. So it's not necessary only there are all good feel or all positive. There are some issue of concerns are there because that 50% reservation. If we go to that issue, definitely it is going to empower. But the thing is, as I mentioned in the earlier stage, the static empowerment and dynamic empowerment. The same here. It is not the mayor giving 50% reservation and women and coming. And most of the cases it happen different parts of it. Not most of the cases, but a good portion that the male are still dominating in the name of women. So this is also issue. It is not that women have to realize that it's a 50% reservation was given, uh, uh, and but they should understand the meaning power, the inner meaning power of this reservation.
Yes,
Until
sir.
and unless they understand the true meaning of this reservation, it is not the mere seat. It is not the mere proportion of these things. But in true sense, this is a really empowering tool for them to participate in the decision making part. Several places it happened there is a Pradhan Pati kind of name was given, the Pradhan Pati. So even the Pradhan, it was a women Pradhan, but the Pati, the husband enjoys the most power. So it's not in the sake of giving reservation, but in the true meaning of reservation must be there. Otherwise, it will be again some figure or number game and other things. But there is also some, as our speaker was mentioning, Dr. Anisha was mentioning on that, there are some positive factors, no doubt about it. It is not only empowerment, but also we have seen that I mean, very good, I mean, reduction in the corruption, which is one of the issues, the corruption, the control of the corruption, because we studied in a few all women panchayats. So all women panchayat, all the members are panchayat, and they are very active. Not only that, they can understand all these issues very much. But apart from this reservation, which can be, I mean, one way windows to open for them, but it is also important how the capacity building, because a lot of things are coming nowadays. The mobile and other things, new schemes are coming. Uh, Women have to be trained on that capacity building on that. Handholding must be
Absolutely.
there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So mere reservation may not be the solution towards the empowerment, but this is also good opening that can be. But even it was mentioned that in the parliament 50% reservation in 2039. It will be effective in 2039. I could not understand about why this 2039. Why not from this
29, I think.
2020?
29.
29. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not from 24? What is wrong with that? The 24 with that? Whether I mean whether we are not ready for that, or whether we will take another 5 years to think on that they will come. So as it is a welcome, no doubt about that, the 50% reservation. But I, as a personally, when we are talking or advocating for the gender equality, we expected that it will be from 2024 itself in the upcoming thing. Then the true speed. Otherwise, 5 years again. I don't know why we are waiting on this. But anyway, it's a good move, no doubt. And all the political parties must be agreed, and they have agreed on, obviously. But let's see how the true sense they are carrying this thing, or how they are carrying these things. This is also important. Over to Dr. Anisha.
Yes, yes. Really true. But in parliament, I think it will not happen like Pradhan Pati. because a parliamentarian will not allow her husband to dominate her, I think. But we need, policymakers for ourselves. So that is why this is 50% reservation of women in the parliament is very necessary. Because decision making, if we are in decision making process, then only I think the true gender equity can come after a few years. And you are right, Dr. Chaudhary, I am agreed to you that why from 29? Because I think 50% representation of women in as parliamentarian, it will take some time for women to come in politics because they are not in politics at all. That is why these 5 years have been taken, I think. So thank you, Anisha Hazarika. Hello.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, you have talked about representation of women in media, representation of women politicians in media. But I have a question, not a question. I just want to ask you about your idea that what you will say about the recent this disqualification of Mahua Maitra in Parliament. Have you heard her name, Mahua Maitra?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
But, ma'am, I'm not aware of the news much, so I think I'll not be able to comment on it because I'm not aware of the news in a very precise manner. So I'm sorry, I'm not being.
This is very hot news. This was a very hot news, and very recently, after 2-3 before 2-3 days only, she was being disqualified from as parliament from the parliament. Okay, so just check it.
Yeah,
it's
because
very interesting. Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So thank you, Anisha.